Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Good day, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be, whenever you might be. Thanks for joining us here on Fantasy Sports Daily. I am your host, Ray Flowers. How you doing? Things going good? You know, we're back after a holiday week. I know a lot of you took extra time off, so hopefully you're not struggling too much back at the old grind of it this week. Hopefully you're enjoying things over at FantasyGuru.com, what we're doing there. A really exciting time of year. Obviously, we got the All-Star game coming up with baseball, the trade action in the NBA. Even the NHL's doing some things. Obviously, we've also got the draft guide over at FantasyGuru.com available right now. Let's just talk about it off the top. By the way, I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. You can find me here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. On Wednesdays, Justin Fensterman hosts here. Why is it Justin here on Wednesday and not me? Because I'm over with Jeff Mans on the Elite Sports Show on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio on Wednesdays. Remember, Jeff's got a new time, and this will be the time slot throughout the football season. The time slot is 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 to 5 p.m. for the Elite Sports Show. I'm on with Jeff every Wednesday. This show is every Tuesday. This show here is every day, Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We have, I'm on Mondays by myself, just rocking and rolling. Tuesday through Friday, we have guests on about halfway through each show, talk a little bit of football after we talk baseball to lead things off. And that's what we're going to do today. But before we get to that, go to FantasyGuru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get signed up for the football product, which continues to grow every single day, which will continue to grow to the start of the season. If you get the draft guide package, it's actually a full season package at FantasyGuru.com. So you get coverage throughout the entire regular season. Get signed up now. Get the rankings, dynasty rankings, IDP rankings, best ball rankings, rookie rankings, PPR rankings, non-PPR rankings, on and on and on. Articles, breakdowns, player profiles. Justin Fensterman and I are doing the auction series. That'll be out, I think, next week it comes out. So for those of you doing auctions, we'll have all that information coming down the pipe too. So tons to talk about, tons to follow, tons to read, and you don't want to get in too late. Coaching breakdowns are about ready to pop from Jeff Mans, the only place in the world you can find him. Jeff talks about it all the time. He's been doing these studies by hand for years. No one else in the fantasy space has this information. We've got the offensive line information from Ted Schuster and Armando Mersal, which again is pretty unique. So get signed up with us over at FantasyGuru.com and let's have some fun. All right, what are we talking about today? There, you can see it on the screen. We're going to talk some baseball, some pitchers, good news, some bad news, some guys getting called up, some guys getting promoted, some guys dealing with injury. Some offensive players that are killing it right now, some that we may have forgotten about, some just checking in. So lots to talk about there. In about 25 minutes, we'll visit with Tyler Beaker. Tristan Wirfs is hurt. Do you know who Tristan Wirfs is? Why is it important that we talk about it? Well, we'll get into it with Tyler Beaker, and it's very important. So we'll talk about Tristan Wirfs. We'll talk about Kyren Williams, and then we'll also talk about a lot of receivers. As you can see there, Mims, Bryant, Brown, McLaurin, Austin, Tillman, Douglas. Lots of receivers to talk about with Tyler Beaker. You can follow the show every single day by going to FantasyGuru.com, clicking the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. Wherever you listen to your podcast, type in Fantasy Sports Daily. You should be able to find us there and have this in the podcast form. You can also watch us live or on demand. Yeah, watch live or on demand. YouTube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, and on Twitter X @Fantasy Guru site. All right, so let's get into it here. Hunter Greene. In this, shades of Shane McClanahan here with Hunter Greene right now. Hunter Greene, he's got a back and a groin he's dealing with. Neither one's a big issue. We anticipate him missing, 4, maybe 5 starts, getting back out there. We just talked about it earlier this week on the show. Hey, things are looking good. He's going to go out and throw a bullpen and all that. Not good, no. He had a setback from the injury that he suffered back in June. So while he was able to throw a little bit on Tuesday, there was discomfort. There is no roadmap right now, according to Terry Francona, the manager of the Reds, as to what the next step is. But clearly there was a setback. His rehab is being moved to the spring training facility in Arizona. Obviously, Greene is still looking at being out multiple weeks, looking a lot like August now. And that's disappointing because it looked like he was on the precipice of the return. This gives more length to Burns and Martinez before the Reds have to make that decision with their starting rotation. But really disappointing news with Hunter Greene, who looked like he was getting really close, right? So now, again, we're what, June 10th or July 10th, excuse me. July 10th today. I really struggle to see him being back in June. And we're seeing this and saying this about a lot of pitchers now. August is starting to look like, for a lot of these guys, like August. And August, is that August 1st? Is that August 23rd? So we continue to wait with Hunter Greene. Not ideal news. Not the news that we were hoping to see, not the news we were wanting to see, but it's the news we got. So we'll continue to follow that and hopefully get some updates there. Now, somebody that a lot of people have turned to because of all the injuries, someone that none of you wanted to turn to. He's a name that's been around forever. He's not a really effective pitcher. Well, I guess he's effective. He's not a very good fantasy option. He's on a team where he never wins games, all that kind of stuff. But Adrian Houser, I mean, at some point, he's 5-2, and the White Sox are 6-3 in his last 9 starts. That team is like 25-59 when he's not starting. So there's something going on here with Adrian Houser. And wanted to spotlight him because I think we've mentioned him previously. And I basically said I'm pretty sure if we mention him, which is what everyone else said too. But goodness gracious, he's made 9 starts. He's 5-2. His ERA is 1.6 and his WHIP is 1.1. These are fantastic numbers. Now the problem is his 17% strikeout rate. Obviously, no, right? That's not very good. His 85% left on base percentage mark is like the greats of all time level. It's clearly there's been a lot of fortune there with him. You see it again. Remember, his ERA is 1.56. His expected ERA is 3.6. That's 2 full runs higher. His xFIP is over 4. His SIERA is 4.47. So what all these advanced measures say, and by the way, I'll be writing more about expected numbers over at fantasyguru.com when it pertains to pitching. I'm going to be looking at the ERA stuff today over at fantasyguru. Later this afternoon it'll be up. What those numbers basically tell you quite directly is that Houser has been balls lucky. Now, he gets ground balls. His 1.5 ground ball to 5 ratio is a good number. He's been giving the White Sox depth. All these things are true. There is a chance he gets traded. Maybe he gets traded to a better scenario and he keeps the wins coming. That's possible. But understand, he is in the zone of we're playing with fire. He is in the zone of, hey, here's 4 1/3 innings and 8 runs coming at you, right? So terrific. Continue to roll with him if you want. Hey, there we go. First start after the breaks, lined up against Pittsburgh. Hey, let's go, right? But be cautious with getting too excited with Adrian Houser because the bottom will fall out. He just doesn't miss enough bats. He doesn't have elite stuff, but he's been extremely effective. He's in one of those grooves, and that kind of pitcher, those ground ball guys get in a groove sometimes, and it can last for a couple of months. Cam Schlittler, let's be careful how we say Schlittler. A lot of excitement. He was picked up in a couple leagues we talked about on Monday here. Every Monday on the show, we review the Fab run from my FSGA, Labor, and Tout Wars Experts leagues. And we talked about Schlittler, who'd been picked up. He was added for a couple of dollars, that kind of thing. Gave up 3 runs in 5 1/3 innings for the Yankees against the Mariners yesterday. Pretty solid effort. There's a little bit of excitement growing here because, it certainly looks like he's got a chance to be in the rotation. Now, the problem with Schlittler is he's like 6'8". He's a big dude. And he's got a really good fastball and a decent slider. I think his slider is the second pitch, right? But the fact is that his other pitches are just bleh. And if you look into the profile, I'm pulling up to make sure it's a slider that I'm not losing my mind with. Oh, curveball. Okay, so curveball, fastball, curveball. His slider and his cutter are bleh. His command is bleh. Really, he's a 2-pitch pitcher. And what do we say all the time about 2? And he's 6'6", not 6'8". Little exaggeration this morning. Apologize for that. What do we say about guys that are 2-pitch pitchers? They often end up in the bullpen. And there are a lot of people in the scouting world that look at Schlittler and say, unless that command and control really improves, like substantially improves, he's going to end up in the bullpen. And there's nothing wrong with that. This skill set can play up tremendously well in the bullpen. But it's tough to get overly excited about him as a long-term viable option in the second half. The Yankees obviously will be in the mix to make a move to add some veterans there. To his credit, he's pitched very well this season. He's got huge strikeout numbers, 32% strikeout rate in the minor leagues, walk rate about league average, which is, if he can do that, he can have success. But I do worry about his viability as a big league pitcher with his lack of pitching depth. His repertoire is thin. So keep that in mind before you run to the waiver wire and go bonkers over Schlittler. Now, Lucas Giolito is rounding into form, and this is getting pretty interesting. In the Tout Wars League I was talking about, I added him a couple weeks ago. In that league, he'd been dropped. I don't remember what I spent, $39 out of 1,000, something like that. 6 strikeouts over 6 scoreless innings against the Rockies. Now it's the Rockies, okay. He's 6-1, and his ERA is down to 3.4. And in the case of Giolito, we have to remember, he's 30 years old now, he'll be 31 later this month. There's a couple 200 strikeout seasons on this guy's resume. And, way back in 2019, when he was at the peak of his skills, he won 14 games with 228 strikeouts. Like, he was a pretty good pitcher. Then hit some hard times and obviously dealt with some injuries here late. His numbers right now are, again, trending to the very good 3.4 ERA, a 1.2 whip. These numbers work. A 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio is very exciting. That's a good number. 1 home run per 9 innings. That's a good number. 22% strikeout rate, that's way below. He used to be in his peak. He was at 30%, and his career number is at 25%. So he's not missing as many bats, and that can be a limiting factor in long-term success. But what I really like about Giolito is that he's been consistently going deep into games. 6, 6, 6, 7, 7 2/3, and 6. So in all that time, he has 1 game where he's allowed 4 runs. Right? All the other ones have obviously been quality starts. But over those 6 starts, he's got a 0.7 ERA. Come on. But it's a 3.5 xFIP, which is pretty much what his ERA says right now, too. So Giolito is really rounding into form. It's unclear, it's really unclear what we'll see, in terms of workload the rest of the way, because he's obviously on pace to throw 140 innings this year. Didn't throw an official pitch last season, right, in the big leagues. At all. And if you look at his work in the minor leagues, there was none. So he didn't throw an official pitch last year. Back in 2023, he was at 180 plus innings. So he's been there. He can do that. We'll see how he wears down or doesn't wear down for the suddenly surging Red Sox. I see a question here from John. Let's just talk about this. It is the Red Sox. Good morning, Ray. What do you see for the outlook for the remainder of the season for Masataka Yoshida? Yoshida, by the way, is obviously active now. And there's been talk of him picking up a first baseman's glove and trying things out there. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. He is a moderate to blah defensive outfielder. It's really not very good as an outfielder. So it was DH yesterday. I think that it's and this is something we talked about. I think we talked about it on the show Tuesday. The fact that the Red Sox seem pretty intent that they're going to trade Jarren Duran, which, again, I don't understand, but okay. So if that does indeed happen, it's very likely that Yoshida is playing the rest of the day, the rest of the season. That might be their plan anyway, for him to play every day. Now, if he's at the DH, and he might only qualify at DH in your setup, he's very unappealing as a UT-only guy because he's not going to steal bases and he doesn't have much power. But he's a professional hitter. I see very little reason to not look at what he's done the last 2 years and say that's the kind of hitter we should expect. We should expect a guy hitting 280 with a 335 on base percentage and giving good at bats, put the ball in play. Again, though, he's just limited by his position. If he qualifies in the outfield in your setup, a little more interest there. If you're in a 3 outfielder league, don't care. If you're in a 5 outfielder league, okay, right? But looks like he's going to play an awful lot. Maybe he still gets platooned against lefties. I don't know. Again, it depends how things work out here the next month for this team. But he's a mildly intriguing player. He did it 6 yesterday, so I would say more of the same for Yoshida, which is not bad, but he's more of an injury fill-in. He's not really someone that I would anticipate using long-term. He just doesn't have the power or the speed with that positional situation as UT. Back to the pitching side of things, Reese Olson on 2 runs in 5 innings against the Rays yesterday. He threw 84 pitches, his second start back from the injury list with that finger issue. And Olson, he wrote about, I think he was in the breakout pitcher of the year column this season over at fantasyguru.com. He's been really good. 2.95 ERA, 1.24 whip, a 23% strikeout rate. So these numbers are pretty much in line with Giolito, a little bit slightly higher strikeout rate, but pretty much in line with Giolito. And, Olson he's more of a touch and feel guy. He's not a big dominator, but as we're seeing here, he can have a lot of success. And he's somebody that I don't know. I haven't heard any questions about Reese Olson, and maybe that's because everyone that has him realizes they're going to keep him. Maybe no one's looking at him and is very impressed by this or that. Maybe the injuries cause him to be on the waivers and no one's looking at him. But if Reese Olson's out there, again, this is a guy who's now made 50-plus starts at the big league level with a 3.6 ERA and a 1.17 WHIP. Like, pretty effective work yesterday and pretty effective work this season, as well as expecting the rest of the season from Reese Olson. An update on Shohei Ohtani. We were told. I was going to say we were thinking, but we were told that Shohei Ohtani wasn't going to pitch the first half. His season was over as a pitcher. His first half, was over as a pitcher. Not the case. He's actually going to pitch on Saturday against the Giants. Tyler Glasnow obviously went back in the rotation, pitched pretty well. For those people that had Glasnow, I heard a couple people mention this in Discord. I was really disappointed I didn't start Glasnow. As I said here on the show, I wouldn't have faulted anybody for not pitching Glasnow. He pitched well. Good. Let's go. We're ready to rock and roll now. He looked good. I got through his 5 innings, all that kind of stuff. But because Glasnow was back in the rotation, the thought was that Ohtani probably wouldn't pitch till after the All-Star break. Well, now we're hearing that he's going to pitch on Saturday against the Giants. Now he's only going to go, 2 innings, maybe 3, right? But this also means that Emmett Sheehan will pitch on Sunday. So Sheehan, for those people that picked up him, will get another start before the All-Star break here. Ohtani will get a chance to pitch and throw his couple of innings on Saturday. The Dodgers are taking this slow with Ohtani, and it's been a killer for those people that have Ohtani pitcher only. First half has been useless, and that's a lot slower return to action for Ohtani than we were anticipating. So that's a little disappointing. On the offensive side of things, the Cubs have been absolutely fantastic this year. The team's been fantastic this year. This first half has obviously blown away everyone's expectations. You look at this lineup: Ian Happ, Kyle Tucker, Seiya Suzuki, Pete Crow, Armstrong, Michael Busch, who's one of the hottest hitters on the planet the last couple of weeks, Dansby Swanson, Carson Kelly, Nico Horner. This is a really good lineup. Lefty, righty, power, speed. And then there's the 9th place hitter, Matt Shaw. And Shaw was obviously started the season with the big league club, was really terrible, got demoted really quickly. But I was reading a note here. Chris, you might be right. Hey, Ray, I believe Emmett Sheehan will piggyback with Ohtani on Saturday and then Yamamoto Sunday. That's not. I wish I could. I can't do that during the show. I won't be able to do that. Let me just check what the probables here on a page are. You might very well be right. I might have misspoke, Chris. Let's see. According to what I'm looking at, I think Chris is correct. Sheehan will follow Ohtani on Saturday with Yamamoto pitching Sunday. Good catch, Chris. Thank you. Again, I'm looking at a probable sheet, so I don't have a report saying this, but it makes sense looking at the probable sheet. Now that I think about it, what Chris is saying makes sense. So good catch, Chris. So let's go. Dustin May Friday against the Giants. Shohei Ohtani Saturday, followed by Sheehan. And then Sunday, Yamamoto to end the first half. Good job, Chris. Way to keep me honest. Matt Shaw, going back to him. Matt Shaw he was promoted. I mean, he made the big league club, then he struggled, then he was demoted, then he was recalled, and it's just not happening. And his last 30 games, he's stolen 6 bases. Okay. He's hitting like 160. And we're now 60 games into Matt Shaw's rookie season, which is, again, another reason why we don't want to depend on rookies. I know everyone ignores me every year and continues to ignore me. Matt Shaw was a lot of people's Rookie of the Year favorite in the National League. Let's not forget that. I didn't forget that. That's where we were at 4 months ago. He's just not hitting. Now, digging a little deeper, his walk rate solid above the big league average. His strikeout rate solid below the league average. So these are good numbers. He's stolen 11 bases, so he's on a 20-plus steal pace. This is really good news. But he's just not driving the baseball at all. He's got 2 home runs, 14 RBIs. And, you can talk about actual performance in terms of the fantasy value. But if you dig a little bit deeper, which is what we like to do here, is what we try to do over at fantasyguru.com with our analysis. Matt Shaw is 5'10", 190. He's not going to ever lead the league in exit velocity. Okay. But you look at his StatCast page, and it's bad. It's blue everywhere. The only thing that's red is like his running speed. He is bottom 25% in expected WOBA. He's bottom 15% in barrel rate. He's bottom 5% in hard hit rate. And he's bottom 1%. He is the bottom in exit velocity. There's nothing here that says this is going to appreciably change in the second half. And while you're looking at this team with the Cubs, again, they have playoff aspirations now, and looking at the roster and all that, the weak link is him. I mean, it's just, do they start playing Justin Turner more at third base? Do they play Vidal Bruján at third base? They probably are talking about making a trade. So if you've got Matt Shaw, it's panic time, because it just, I don't think anyone other than AL League, is actually playing him. But if you got him in a mixed league and you want him to move on, I have no negative against that. I think that's the move to make at this point. The positive move on the other side of things here, Salvador Perez, 3 for 4, a couple of solo home runs yesterday. And, it's early, right? It's July, and it's only been like 9 or 10 games for him. But he's hitting 370 with an 800 slugging. And Salvador Perez is really interesting because he is one of these boring players that, there's hot streaks, there's slumps. And in the end, there's 25 home runs, and 79 RBIs. Like, it happens every year, right? And you look up, and by the way, he's on pace for 20 home runs and like 90 RBIs. And he has not been great at all. But, I mean, it's just like clockwork. And it's rather remarkable. He's played 49 games at catcher, so he'll qualify there next year. He's played 23 games at first base, so he'll qualify there next year. Now, next year, he'll also be 36. So, the end is getting near for a guy that's not very athletic. But he can still hit, starting to drive the baseball much better here of late. And the numbers are starting to get much more in line with the expectation that we had in the preseason. Romy Gonzalez of the Red Sox, going back to the Sox, home run, scored twice, had a walk yesterday, and his slash line is insane. 340, 370, 600. It's insane. Now, just to mention him, because he's white hot, and I think we've had we've used him obviously in DFS. He's been listed multiple times in Ray's plays. I think there might even have been a bet with him, I think. I'm trying to remember, maybe not. Went 4-0 with the bets last night, by the way. So get over to fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get signed up for the baseball product. I'm doing the article today about pitching for the seasonal. I'm doing Ray's plays for the DFS. I'll have a bet or two up later as well. When you sign up for the baseball product now, it's all one product. So everything we do is one price, one product. You get access to it all. So check that out over at fantasyguru.com. As I noted, in Discord the other day when I was talking to someone, it's like, his OPS from Romy Gonzalez is 1,200 against left-handed pitching, which is insane, right? Against righties, it's 720. So he's league average against right-handed pitching right now. He does not have a walk against right-handed pitching. That's a problem. How many at-bats does he have against righties? He's got 68 at-bats against righties with 0 walks. That's a problem. 410 batting average on balls in play. Now, I will say he's hitting the ball incredibly hard. And if you want to ride this hot streak and all that, more power to you. But understand that until he does a better job against right-handed pitching, and we just haven't seen it yet, those outstanding batted ball numbers are going to be limited by his success or lack of against right-handed pitching. Masyn Winn. Let's check in with Masyn Winn. We haven't looked at Masyn Winn in a while. A guy we talked about all the time early in the year, a guy that I was high on coming into the season, and a player that has been, with the bat, I would say fine. The lack of running is really disappointing. He's got 4 steals. And remember, this is a player that we all thought was stealing 30 bases. There was even talk about him trying to spike 40 bases this year. I was hoping for 25 to 30. Looks like we're going to get about 10. That just kills the guy's value when we're talking about his overall game, because he doesn't have any outstanding numbers. Now, he's played 81 games. He's not going to play 162, but he's played 81 games, double everything he's done. And, we're talking 14 home runs and 100 runs scored. Love that. That's right what I would have expected. 260 average, a little light. But it's the 4 steals that are the killer. Because his offensive game overall just, you're better off just taking Nico Horner, right? Because Nico Horner is going to steal bases. The last 2 weeks, 2 RBIs, 4 runs scored in 12 games, hitting 277. So more of the same for Masyn Winn. Again, disappointing. There's always a chance that it all clicks and he has a strong second half. I think that is still possible. But even so, the lack of stealing base is just not helping him out enough to make him a fantasy-worthy option in some leagues. In deeper leagues like me, 15-team leagues, yeah. In 10 or 12-teamers, he's a very boring play up the middle. Noelvi Marte went 2 for 3 with a 2-run home run yesterday. Now he's just 1 for 12 coming into yesterday's game since he returned from his hamstring issue. But again, a couple of hits of a home run yesterday. Don't forget about Noelvi Marte. Remember, Heimer Candelario's gone with the Reds now. Marte should play on a daily basis. Marte, who's last year, suspensions and this year injuries. He's had a really hard time just being in the lineup on a consistent basis. But Noelvi Marte is a top-end, if not elite, top-end prospect who's just getting his feet wet at the major league level, and he's really good. Okay, so monitor this, watch this. If he's on the waiver wire in your setup, put him on the watch list at the very least. He could absolutely have an impressive second half. He's got power, he's got speed, should play most days for the Reds. Really love this kid if he can stay on the field, which has been a significant issue for him to this point in time. Gavin Sheets hit a home run yesterday. Gavin Sheets has been really good. I mean, he's been better than anyone reasonably could have anticipated. Probably qualifies at first base in the outfield, which is nice. Got 14 home runs, 50 RBIs here as we approach the All-Star break. That's terrific. His average is also down to 260. The OPS is down to 770. The last couple of weeks, hitting 250 with a 740 OPS. This is just who he is. The catching category numbers are better than anticipated. He's not going to steal bases. He's a 250 hitter. Might be less than that. So, he's one of those players that at the end, if he hits 251 and he goes 23-83, making numbers up, that's fantastic given the expectations. Would that be a great second half? No. But again, multi-position eligible, playing most of the time against right-handed pitching for the Padres. Just a little tip of the cap to him. He's been really good, much better than anticipated. Zach McKinstry was added to the American League All-Star team roster. Jose Ramirez just pulled out of that. By the way, don't you all love, like me, when there's like 85 people named the All-Star team when it's all said and done? So stupid. McKinstry's been added to the roster to replace actually technically Jeremy Pena, who's dealing with the injury of his ribcage injury. McKinstry has been very good. He's held on longer than I anticipated. Many people were big fans of him because let's face the facts. He could qualify at every position. He could qualify at every position but catcher. And he won't qualify for second, third, short, outfield maybe. Extremely valuable when it comes to that. His numbers have really started to decline until the last 2 weeks when everything picked back up and he started running like bananas. His last 2 weeks, he's got 3 home runs and 5 steals. He's also hitting 381. So he's continued to – hasn't been necessarily consistent. And when he had that dip, he rebounded strong, which is great to see. Gets an all-star nod here. I don't think he's going 15-30, which is almost his pace right now. But he has been quite effective. And that multi-position thing is obviously a huge benefit in the vast majority of fantasy leagues, which includes pretty much all of them, because that's how it works. You heard about drafters.com, right? Well, if you haven't, let me remind you, drafters.com and fantasyguru.com have got a deal worked out together. And it says there for the next 10 days, that's not true. That's what it was when I wrote it. That's what it was. Now we got a couple of days left. It's probably through the end of the week. So if you're going to get involved with the drafters.com best ball tournament, now is the time to do it with the following information. Number one, Tyler Beaker, who we'll talk to in a few minutes here. Tyler Beaker's got an entire best ball guide, which is part of the full season package at fantasyguru.com. Remember, click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. You can also send a note to support@fantasyguru.com. Tyler Beaker's got a full best ball guide. He's got players to target, players to avoid. He's actually got drafters.com rankings. He wrote an article about the format. So that information is there for you to take advantage of the following deal. If you've never signed up to play best ball at drafters.com, we've got a bonus match, 100% deposit bonus match for you up to $500. So if you put $300 in, you get $300 bonus match, which is pretty damn terrific. Go to drafters.com/refer/elite. That's www.drafters.com/refer/elite to take advantage of that opportunity. If you've already signed up with drafters.com, because we have partnered with them previously, and you're saying, Ray, shucks, what am I going to do? Well, we have a promo code that you can utilize to get a reload bonus of 20%. So use the promo code Elite Reload For those of you that have already signed up there, you get a 20% reload bonus for drafters.com, which is really nice because a lot of sites, they get you in, they say thanks for joining us, and they forget about you, and they don't ever look at you again. Drafters.com's got a nice little bonus for those of you working with us. So use that promo code Elite Reload if you want to get signed up over there. All right, it's Thursday. And normally on Thursdays, we talk to our main man, Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com. You can find him every Tuesday on the live stream at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time over at FG. Again, you can find him here every Thursday. He's frequently been on Minder Marsal as he and Armando have broken down all the different divisions. You can check that out by going to FantasyGuru.com, clicking the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page, where this show is located. You can also find Minder Marsal, where Tyler's been a lot. And you can find Tyler writing articles all the time, and in Discord answering your questions all the time as well. Let's welcome him in right now as the two bearded ones have a football conversation. How you doing, Tyler?
Doing good, Ray. How about you?
Doing all right. I started a little slow today. One of those days where the talking was a little. I'm a nighttime person more generally speaking, and I'm really not great in the mornings talking. I don't know why that is. I guess I have to work into the day, which of course is troublesome because this is like right at the start of the day for me. Are you better talking in the night, or the evening, the midday, or are you just good all the time?
I'm never good at talking. It is always a struggle completing sentences, which is why I like to write my columns. Allows me to take my time and figure out which words I like to use. But no, I'm much more of a morning person. I find myself most productive and efficient in the mornings.
How was the pub crawl, by the way? You went on a pub crawl last week, right?
We did, yes. It was fun. Hit a few spots, ended with some good food. We played it slow. We weren't too crazy, which was nice. Got some nice fancy cocktails, which was a bit of a different change and speed up from the Coors Light nights that we have over here from time to time.
Right.
So it felt a little fancy. Pretty expensive, I'll say that. So it's not something that I will probably be doing very often. As I say that now, my wife reminded me that we have a beer Olympics coming up this Saturday. And I'm like, my goodness, I'm never going to get in shape.
What is the beer Olympics? We need to know more. What is this? Tell us.
I do not know. I'm excited for it. I haven't done one in like 2 or 3 years. And the last time I did it, my wife's brother actually hosted it. And they had everybody come as a different country where they basically dressed in whatever fashion you chose. And we competed in multiple events, some like beer pong, some flip cup, some chugging, some all kinds of different things. Nice. My memory of that day was pretty fuzzy. I'm excited to see how this one goes. We're doing it for a friend's birthday, so it should be a good time.
Are there like awards? Did you get a little trophy or a medal or anything? Do you know?
I'm flying blind into this one.
Okay.
I honestly didn't even know about it until this morning when we talked about it. So I'll give you an update next weekend or next Thursday.
Yeah, if you win, you need to bring the trophy or the.
I'm hoping there's hardware.
Yeah. Bring it on the show next week if you win.
We'll do.
Tyler Beaker, FantasyGuru.com. Let's talk some football here, and we almost always focus on the skill players because that's what we utilize in fantasy. Duh. Let's talk a little bit about the situation with the Bucs here. Tristan Wirfs, their left tackle, has got a knee issue, and he's going to start the season on the PUP list. And this story might have flashed by people and they didn't pay attention or they don't care, whatever. This is significant. He is one of the better left tackles in all of football. Obviously, this impacts the passing and the rushing attack of Tampa Bay. How significant is this injury to Wirfs in terms of your expectations, especially early on for the offense of the Bucs?
Yeah, for my money, Wirfs is arguably the best left tackle in the league. You could say he's top 5 for sure, and I don't think anybody will give you any pushback for that. I wouldn't even go so far as to say he's number 1. He's just been fantastic. 4 Pro Bowls over the last 5 years. Very, very great last season where in games where he was played and when he was in the lineup, Mayfield was pressured on just 23% of his dropbacks, which was the 4th lowest rate in the NFL. Wirfs himself, he did not allow a sack, permitted just 1 QB hit over 1,000 plus snaps in pass protection. Yeah. His pressure rate allowed of 1.9% was the lowest among all offensive tackles. So if you want to look into the data, sure, it's definitely backing up Wirfs as one of the best and most impactful tackles in the league. And it's just a huge drop off when you go from the best of the best to anybody else. Right. And poor Charlie Heck, he was picked up in free agency as just kind of like a swing tackle, one of those backups that can go and play on the left or the right in a pinch. But with Wirfs expected to be on the PUP list means he's out the first 4 weeks of the the season, first 4 games. Those are games against the Falcons, the Texans, a great pass rush, the Jets, a great pass rush, and the Eagles, a great pass rush. We're going to see Charlie Heck tested frequently. So I'm curious to see if the Bucs get off to a slow start to begin the year. Wouldn't shock at all, especially if we see Chris Godwin. Maybe he's a candidate for the pup list as well. Right. Bucs could be a second half team where they really excel down the stretch, but could be a slow start for Tampa Bay. Wouldn't shock at all.
As a prime example, do you drop Baker Mayfield a spot in the rankings? Do you leave him the same? Do you now say, you've dropped multiple spots? Like how explain the actual impact in terms of the fantasy value of some of these guys?
I think it's more impactful to look at it in terms of how it would impact the run game because of what Wirfs does in terms of creating space. They were great at creating explosive runs for Bucky Irving last year. My thought is it's probably less impactful for Baker, who's probably going to get by via volume. If we get where the Godwin is out, then I think we can start adjusting Baker up and down. But right now, he's still kind of really close to Mahomes in my rankings in terms of where to put those two guys, just because neither of them are super run-heavy guys, but both can throw for 40 touchdowns in the blink of an eye, and we wouldn't be shocked.
Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com. Tyler, do you, by the way, have a target date for your draft book to drop?
I believe it's August 4th or 5th.
Okay.
So it'll be coming out very shortly here. I'm actually working on it behind the scenes because I'm about to join a Pros vs. Joes contest, which starts off July 20th. So I want to have that ready for then. But once I get my draft book, I also want to do like a Excel, what are they called? A Google Doc where I can have little notes from every player. It's something that I've been wanting to do for quite a few years. Right. I've been kind of putting it together on the side. But yeah, excited to do that and try to add a little bit more context to my rankings rather than just a linear set of players. I'll have my draft book also separated by tiers to try to help you guys with that, because tier-based drafting is the best way to go right now.
So the draft book, I know what it is, but a little bit more detail on what it is in case someone listening doesn't know what it is, Tom.
Sure. Armando, Marcel, Russell Clay, and I, we all are doing 3 different draft books where they are separated by different scoring formats. My scoring format will cover the tight end premium. So if you're playing in any FFPC format leagues, playing in any main events or any of the big gorillas, love how they rebranded that this year. Mm-hmm. That would be ideal for that format. But it'll be out, I believe, August 4th or 5th, early August. We'll say that.
Okay. Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com joins us every Thursday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Before we talk about some wide receivers, I wanted this news story here about Kyren Williams. Looked explosive. He looks great. And Jeff Mans and I talked about him on the Elite Sports Show yesterday. Again, that's 2 to 5 Eastern, Monday through Friday on Sirius XM. And Jeff mentioned the fact that, back when he was in college, he lost weight one year because the coaching staff asked him to. He gained weight one year because the coaching staff asked him to. You look at his usage is as high as anyone in football in terms of snap share and touch share. He's out there all the time. He gets all the work in the backfield. He's, going for 1,500 yards from scrimmage and 15 touchdowns the last couple of years. Like, he does it all. And he's not forgotten, but he's not somebody that a lot of people are targeting if you look at the ADP. Are you targeting Kyren Williams, number one? And number two, coach speak like this, does it impact you at all with a guy like Kyren Williams?
Yeah, he's also holding out. So I think it's also something we can throw into the mix there as a flag. I don't want to say it's necessarily a red flag, but it's just something to pay attention to. Right. He's holding out because he's set to make just $5 million. And it's tough. It's the final year of a rookie contract. We're seeing the same thing with James Cook, where these guys that just put up massive years, they know that their careers in the NFL are short-lived. Yep. Trying to get a payday out of it after a big season specifically should be what these guys are trying to do. So I don't blame them at all. Kyren specifically, since over the last 2 years, 3rd most touchdowns, 6th most total yards over the last 2 seasons, if we include the postseason. So I can't really blame him for wanting to get more than $5 million after seeing this team invest in some young backups that have some juice as well, and guys like Jarquez Hunter and Blake Corum. These things generally have a way of working themselves out. I just tend to make a mental note of holdouts. Don't really adjust rankings or anything. And I'm going to continue selecting him in round 3 of best ball drafts right now because I think he's a great selection. He's consistently getting touchdowns, consistently, like you said, getting a lot of work in terms of opportunity, carries, and targets. So I think he's a fine buy right now. Not really worried about too much, and I think he's just a good click. The worries are the same as they were the season prior, where 2 years ago he had 2 different IR stints. And because of that, I think that's the reason why people aren't thrusting him up into round 2, round 1. that worry, that concern still lingers. Add in all the hype and positive coach speak about like Jarquez Hunter. I think it makes sense to keep him in round 3 and not elevate him, despite what's been a productive career for him so far.
Speaking of give me my money, Terry McLaurin is, and we get this too, right? I mean, he's 29 years old. He's, caught 75 passes for 1,000 yards from 57 different quarterbacks the last couple of years. He's coming off a best season. He's not happy, according to reports. I haven't seen any negativity in terms of his cost on draft day at this point. Are you seeing people start to get a little nervous about him? Are you getting a little bit nervous about where the situation is at, or you're drafting him as normal?
Drafting him as normal. Again, I think we can copy and paste those same holdout concerns with any player in, July 10th? Yeah, I'm not really worried about making moves here in terms of rankings, adjusting up and down. Like you said, he's coming off his best season, playing with the best quarterback of his career. He's in the final year of his 3-year, $69 million extension. I think we could, knowing that he's turning 30, put him not in the Jamar Chase category in terms of contract expectations, right, but maybe more in the T. Higgins, maybe more in the Metcalf, Ayuk. Yeah. So we're looking at like about $30 to $33 million per year, maybe a 3 to 4 year deal, given his age, given what they're expecting in Washington, with a decent guaranteed chunk up front. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think he deserves it. I think he's been playing with some poor QB play where pay the damn man. This dude deserves it. He's an obvious touchdown regression candidate. Let's start with that. But I think his role in this offense is being that downfield weapon that can excel. They don't really have that aside from like the oft injured Noah Brown. So I think he's a really good weapon in terms of what this offense needs beyond the whole dink and dunk thing of what Jane Daniels can do. For that reason, I think he's a great click here, that like round 3-4 turn. Generally, that's where he's going in drafts right now. Yeah, it's an ascending offense, and I think McLaurin is a key part of that.
Tyler Beaker of FantasyGuru.com. Tyler, what about the situation with the Denver Broncos? We've talked a lot about the backfield, as we should. The receiving core, it's Courtland Sutton. He's the one. We know that. Then, what is it? Parker Gabriel, the Denver Post, said Marvin Mims could be the wide receiver too. Okay, he showed up flashes last year, Mims did. He's an explosive player. He's got speed. They don't really have a deep receiving core. Troy Franklin, Dale. They have Pat Bryant, which I guess is somebody that we need to talk about here too. But basically, general question here, Tyler, how do you view the Broncos receiving core behind Sutton? And are you interested in drafting any of these guys aggressively in fantasy leagues this year?
Yeah, Sutton, similar to McLaurin, really got by on touchdowns last year, where we weren't seeing a massive yardage campaign from him. It was still a decent one, but it wasn't like, I think touchdowns were at the forefront of Sutton's scoring productivity. And we see that reflected in the scoring dependency article that Rich Miletta recently posted. But Marvin Mims, to end the year from weeks 10 through 18, he averaged a 4.20 yards per out run. For context, anything above 3 is considered terrific. Yeah. So 4.20, banger. 14.4 fantasy points per game over that span as well. That's solid fantasy production. Yep. And this is a guy who has the weirdest profile of where he's getting targeted. Like, PFF charted him with just 8% of his targets in the 10 to 19 air yard range. So it's all either underneath stuff or way down the field stuff. Okay. It's just a wild profile for a guy with a 4.3 speed. He's an all-pro punt returner. Yeah. One of my favorite prospects. I love this dude as a guy from Oklahoma. I thought he had the ability to be a fantastic fantasy asset. We just really haven't seen it in terms of the volume. Again, 52 targets last year, not a real big needle mover, but over the back half of the year, he was a fantastic DFS selection, a fantastic waiver wire play. He's a guy that I'd like to draft more in best ball, though, because I do think there's the addition of Pat Bryant adds some questions. The addition of Evan Ingram adds some questions. He's frequently going the round 10 to round 11 range in ADP, which for my personal draft portfolio is kind of tough because that's like an ideal sweet spot for like other positions. Okay. But that said, I still think he's an upside pick worth making. I think in redraft home leagues where it starts at formats, he'll go later, not in that round 10, 11 range, probably 14 to 16, where he's probably a more comfortable click knowing that you could just drop him off waivers if he doesn't do much. But Pat Bryant, I think he's a true question mark here. Like we saw after the draft, Sean Payton called him Michael Thomas 2.0, and I never really bought into that sentiment. Maybe I'm more in the need to see it grouping of people, but I mean, his prospect profile was dull. It didn't shine in any manner. He has good size, and if you prorate his receiving yards per team pass attempt, which is a good stat in terms of seeing how productive they are relative to other prospects, and you prorate that against competition, he actually had a decent number there, 3.02, which is actually good. Anything above like 2.5 should be considered positive, just for some context. He's a big-bodied wideout, 6'2", 6'3", 4.6 speed, not exactly a burner. Struggled with drops until his senior year. But I'm also humble enough to acknowledge that I'm probably wrong here. And just, if Sean Payton's all over this guy and salivating, he's somebody that I have circled and ready to highlight as somebody to watch as we get ready for camps and preseason games shortly approaching. So he's a guy that I'm kind of in the wait and see mode with him. But again, it's early. He's a rookie that didn't really have the most alluring profile. So I think it's fine to adjust priors as we get more information. And he's the exact kind of player that fits that bill to me.
Tyler, if we were doing a draft, like someone's doing a draft this weekend, who of all the names would you say is the number 2 guy to target in the passing attack? Sutton's the one. Is it Ingram? Is it Mims? It sounds like it's not Pat Bryant, but is it Ingram or Mims? Or like, are you like, you know what I'm saying? For the people out there doing a draft this weekend, what would you suggest?
I actually think it's Evan Ingram. He probably shines the most. I don't want to say the Jimmy Graham stuff because it feels a little bit too fake with respect to what Evan Ingram brings to the table. But he's the guy who's really just gotten by in volume these last few years in Jacksonville. Couldn't stay healthy in New York, but the Jacksonville years, we saw some productivity from him, namely once he got the volume. And if he can continue to see that volume, he has the yak skill set to be that east-west guy that's able to pick up some yards after the catch. So if he can stay healthy, I think the problem is that Ingram's also getting up there in age. He's 30, 31. But to me, if you miss out on the elite cohort, he's like in that tight end 8 to 10 range where you can still probably get by with him as a quality starts at option in that format.
Tyler, let's move on to the Steelers. And we know their number 1 receiver, they paid him. We know it's DK Metcalf catching the passes from Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is apparently working with receivers in the offseason, trying to build rapport and all this kind of stuff. I want to talk to you about 2 receivers in particular behind Metcalf here in the pecking order. Steelers receiving coach Zach Azzani said that right now Calvin Austin's the 2. A lot of people hoping it's going to be Roman Wilson. We'll see, right? Talk to us about your expectations first for Austin and then for Wilson, because Aaron Rodgers, it's not like he can't support 2 receivers, even in a game, even in a scenario, where the Steelers probably want to throw the ball 27 times a week. It's not like they're not going to use the wide receiver, though they do have Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith now. So does it matter who the second receiver is for the Steelers? And talk us through Austin and Wilson if you think one of those guys is going to emerge.
Calvin Austin last year was technically the number 2 in terms of the wide receiver grouping. He only had 3.2 targets per game, though, in this offense. 3.2. It was an 11% target share. The passing attack was really spread out, and it was really low in terms of the size of the pie. It was just a very small passing attack by this Arthur Smith unit. He did have an interesting final season stat line of 36 catches, 548 yards and 4 touchdowns, but he's a late round best ball pick only. I call him a diminutive downfield burner. He's 5'8", 4.33 speed. He did finish wide receiver 13 in yards per reception. I thought that was really notable. Among all guys with 50 plus targets, he was wide receiver 13, just a hair behind George Pickens. Actually, they were like 0.03 separated. So that was interesting. But when we add in the Jonnu Smith addition here, when we add in a healthy Roman Wilson, who missed all of last year, it's tough to be bullish on Austin exceeding his target share or target volume much in 2025. So he's a better in best ball click because he's going to be doing the intermediate to vertical shots. Okay. Roman Wilson, I think to me is more of like actually he could do both. When I was doing the prospect profile for Roman Wilson last year, all I kept thinking was, I don't care about this receiver. JJ McCarthy's the ones that is shining here with his throws and ball placement. Roman Wilson to me was just very forgettable. And again, I'm not saying I'm a great evaluator of prospects, and I will have more misses than hits. That's probably the most likely
outcome. So do the real people, so don't feel bad about that, Tyler.
So do the real people that get paid millions of dollars to do this. I just think it's best to probably avoid this entire unit outside of George Pickens. I'm sorry, not George Pickens, DK Metcalf. I think the ancillary options at the wide receiver position are going to be really tough to rely on in any type of start-sit format. and you really probably only want to target them in best ball. Going a step further, I know we like to look at like week 17 stuff for when all the marbles are out in play. They play Cleveland. I'm not sure it's going to be a exciting offensive game in that matchup. Could be a lot of running between the two teams. So it's tough to get on board with either Austin or Roman Wilson in almost any format. I'll take Austin in best ball, but I'm probably not going to take anything in Wilson in any format.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. What about the situation with the Saints? We've talked so much about Chris Olave and all the uncertainty there with his health all offseason. Rattler or Shook? We don't know who's going to be the quarterback. We think it's Shook, but there's been some Rattler love coming out in the media here. Don't really know what's, Alvin Kamara's got left. He's starting to age out. And then we got Rashid Shaheed, who I think everyone likes, and we've seen explosiveness for him. He seems to me like the type of player you would love, Tyler, because of the game he brings. Did deal with injury and now deals with uncertainty at the quarterback position, though. So how do we evaluate Shaheed and his outlook for 2025?
You are spot on. He is exactly the type of player that I like. But again, like Olave, Shaheed is also no stranger to missing time due to injury. This guy is a big play specialist, but he's also prone to some injuries. He's hit a gain of 25 plus yards or more in over half of his career games. This guy is very, very capable of winning deep down the field. Shuck is also no stranger to throwing deep down the field too. He's a super athletic guy with a cannon. He just can't aim that cannon. So we're just hoping he throws it in the quarter of the field where Shaheed is running his route, and maybe we get lucky there with some explosive pass plays. Yeah, it's kind of where I am with him. This guy is just a very, very strong fantasy producer year in and year out. He does great in terms of receiving fantasy points over expectation, yards per out run, explosive rate. It's just Shuck. It's Tyler Shuck. What are we doing here? I'll say the addition of Kellen Moore as the play caller could at least lead to some more volume for the Saints offense relative to what we saw last year. So if that could be something to hang your hat on. I'll say he and Olave are almost the same bets you're making. It's just one's at a elevated price cost than the other. The two are almost neck and neck in target share when both were healthy last year. So take that for what it's worth. I'm putting my chips on Shaheed at the discount.
I am not, as Jeff Mans called himself yesterday, as a heightist. I'm kind of a heightist too when it comes to receivers. Maybe it's because I'm tall myself, but guys like, there's a lot of guys in the NFL that have roles on a weekly basis and do things that are 5'8", 5'9", 160, 70 pounds. It just makes me nervous, right? It's just, I'd rather have the DK Metcalf body type. You look at the Chiefs and they want to get more vertical. They've talked a lot about that this offseason, opening the offense up, going back to where they used to be a little bit more. Rashid Rice, obviously, we saw him emerge last season, and we expect him to fill the same role in this offense. You've got Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown. Two little guys, two fast guys, two dynamic players. We saw Xavier Worthy really take a step last year because he kind of had to, right? Well, Marquise Brown is back. There was a period of time a couple years ago that everyone had to draft Marquise Brown. Like, he was coming off the board wide receiver 20. People were in love with this guy. Is there a significant role for Brown this season with the Chiefs? Is he somebody that's worth getting excited about drafting in 2025?
It's a really tough question because he hasn't really stayed healthy since basically leaving Baltimore. Those Arizona days were in and out of the lineup due to injury. Same with his Kansas City one-year deal last year. I'll say this. Kansas City's offensive line got some help this year. They invested in offensive tackle Josh Simmons from Ohio State. He may or may not be ready for week one. We're still waiting to see the final word on that. But I think what's really happened is we saw a massive shift in NFL defensive coverages go from a lot of too high against Mahomes to slow down the Mahomes Tyreek Hill angle. And subsequently, the Chiefs pivoted to playing a lot more underneath stuff. We saw Travis Kelce excel from a volume stance. That's kind of been a baton shifting over to Rashid Rice over his last 17 games, including his rookie year and the 3 games we saw last year from him. Perhaps the counter to the counter is more vertical stuff now with teams trying to slow down the Rashid Rice slot stuff. And we see more vertical options for both Hollywood and for Xavier Worthy, two guys that have fantastic speed when healthy and can make plays deep down the field. I think it'll be a game-to-game thing and scheme-to-scheme thing, and maybe even a play-to-play thing where there's the chance that these guys get the ability to play more in the vertical capacity because there's better protection up front for Mahomes, who last year, I believe, along the left side, I think it was the quickest time to pressure among all quarterbacks on the left side. That was just a swinging gate, basically a pylon where there was no protection at all for him. Add in a round one talent now, I think we have a chance to see the vertical game take a step forward where he has some time under center and able to let these guys run their routes and find some separation. Brown is probably the fourth option, though, in this passing pecking order. I think we could put the two receivers Rice and Worthy ahead of him. Mm-hmm. You could probably put Kelsey there too. Yep. Maybe the RB and Marquise Brown are probably neck and neck in terms of that fourth option. So to me, he's probably going to be a very volatile fantasy asset for that reason. Even with the Chiefs being a very pass-heavy offense, it's just not going to be a consistent option for you there. Add in his injury concerns, add in the unknown, and he's a tough player to project, honestly. Mm-hmm. I think if you want to take some shots, he's great for Chiefs stacks and best ball, where we're just investing in Kansas City and Andy Reid. But redraft start-sit formats, I wouldn't be shocked if you were on waiver wires by week 6.
I was just looking at it as you were talking there. I think Juju Smith-Schuster is the biggest receiver they have in terms of size and weight. Juju Smith-Schuster is like 6'1", 215. Everyone, even Rice is like 6'1", 205 or something, so very close. But Juju Smith-Schuster is your big receiver. Wow. A guy that does have size, a guy that does have speed and skill and talent and all these kind of things, and somebody that Jeff Mans talks about frequently, including yesterday, Cedric Tillman. Jerry Jeudy's the guy. He emerged in the second half last year. We saw that. Deontay Johnson's around, and he's obviously had moments. I don't know what the hell happened to him last year, but he's had moments in this league. Cedric Tillman seems primed to be the 2 in this offense and potentially have some big weeks. Don't know who the quarterback's going to be. We don't know how that's going to go. So there's all this uncertainty around Cedric Tillman. But is Cedric Tillman a guy that Tyler Beaker's going to be adding to rosters this season or not?
Yeah, I think he's a great click. He's a player that I thought should have won the Biletnikoff over his teammate Jalen Hyatt, who stole it from him once Tillman went down to injury. But Tillman's just kind of been that player many of us at Fantasy Guru have been just kind of marinating on our dynasty benches, waiting for him to finally get ready to hit the grill. I think this is the year where he does. The problem is the quarterback situation in Cleveland is very in flux. We don't know what's going to happen. There'll be a situation to monitor. It's probably an evolving situation, to be most frank, where over the course of the season, we're probably going to need to have multiple starters under center. Tillman hit a few games, I think it was like 1-2 with Jameis Winston, where we saw that productivity really on display. And then unfortunately, Tillman got injured. We saw a shifting of the baton where it instead led to, with Tillman injured, other guys really getting that volume with Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku getting a lot of volume in that midpoint last year. But yeah, I'm bullish on Tillman. He's got great size, great vertical weapon, great perimeter weapon. Jerry Jeudy in and out of the slot, pardon me, where I think Tillman's just going to be that primary X, the big-bodied wideout, and a great red zone threat too. I think this is a guy that probably exceeds his ADP, where right now is probably in the 60s, wide receiver 60 plus. Good chance where he could be, depending on the quarterback, a weekly flex play at some point this year. So if it's Joe Flacco, where we see the the comeback player of the year version of Flacco versus the last year iteration, then we can get really excited about Tillman. But again, I think it's going to be a week to week evaluation depending on who the quarterback is, if you want to play these Browns pass catchers.
Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. You can see his name there on the screen, Buecher. That's if you want to follow him on Twitter X, Tyler Beaker. You can find him in Discord all the time. You can find him here on the show on Thursdays. You can find him on the live stream, which is Tuesday nights at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Again, he's always in Discord. He's always cranking articles out over at the site. How's Scott Fishbowl going? Quick ask there before the show's over. How's that going? Let me see here. We're halfway through the 5th round, so we are not going very fast. We've had multiple people time out. We've had the guy get kicked out of the league. We've had an interesting start here. How is your league going, Tyler?
We are, I think, 4 rounds deep. I think we just started round 5 overnight, so we're kind of right there with you. Same pace, not going very fast. I've executed a running back heavy start, so RB to start the draft, and then I threw in a rushing QB in round 4, Justin Fields, which might have been a bit early for him, but in the scoring format, I want all that volume. This is 0.5 points per carry. I know a lot of fantasy leagues like to ramp up the scoring, and particularly at the running back position where they implement 0.25. That's the industry standard for when you add point per carry. doubling it is really going to make these running backs have very, very high scoring. I took Saquon Barkley at the 102. He was averaging 41 plus fantasy points per game in this scoring format. So that's a ridiculous fantasy point per game rate. But that's the scoring format. You play to your league rules, know your league rules, know your league settings. I plan on going RB heavy for the next few rounds as well.
I read the article that you wrote over at fantasyguru.com. It said that many times. I did grab Devontae Adams, so I know you'll like that because he was one of the guys you said to target. I had the 10th pick. I went Jalen Hurts. In the second round, I went Jane Daniels. I didn't plan on it, but it's like, is that again, I didn't go the running back plan, but I thought these are running quarterbacks in this scoring format. Do you like the fact? I don't think I've heard many leagues where Jane Daniels fell to the second round like that.
Bravo. No, I haven't either. Okay. I think he went pick 11 in mine. But yeah, I think that's a fantastic pick. I love the doubling up on it too. That's very fun.
Okay. All right. We'll see. My league's been interesting too. Another team did double quarterbacks the first 2 rounds. We have one team that went first 4 rounds all receivers. One team that went first 4 rounds all running backs. We had another team that took 2 tight ends in the first 4 rounds. Like, it's Wild West out there, man. It's like people are really trying a bunch of different strategies. Do you like that?
I do. We were talking about it on the Tuesday live stream, where the fact that the scoring format, for those unfamiliar, it's 11 starters. You can pick anywhere from 0 to 9 flex plays and 0 to 2. There's up to 2 quarterback spots. So there's a quarterback spot and a super flex spot if you choose. But it's basically you can build your team in however vision you like. So it is the wild, wild west. I think ADP doesn't matter. Draft room to draft room is going to be wildly different. I saw Kenneth Walker go like 301 in some league, and he lasted like the end of the 4th round in another. It's just going to be wild to see how these stack up against each other. I think seeing people execute different strategies within the draft room that you just mentioned there is a fantastic example of why this league is so fun. People are able to build their teams in their own vision of how they expect their squad to do and how they expect the scoring to accumulate. It should be a very, very fun year because I'm going very RB heavy because that's what worked last year, and I expect some of these players to fall short of the expectations. I expect some changes in terms of wide receivers taking a step forward. But there's so much that, like, from a league-wide lens where you can go in any number of direction and start your format with however you like. That's what makes this so much fun, and why I think mock drafts for this were maybe a fun exercise, but more or less an exercise in futility.
Kenneth Walker went 304, by the way, just to throw it out there. At 303, I took Breece Hall, so we'll see how that goes. Tyler Beaker of fantasyguru.com. Tyler, thanks again for your time. We'll talk to you again next Thursday. Good luck with everything. I know you're busy doing things fun, and we'll look forward to the award sharing next week after you win the Beer Olympics.
Can't wait. Extra content on the way. We're working on some draft guide stuff. Should be hopefully available at the end of next week. I don't want to say that for sure, but I'm working on my wide receiver versus coverage scheme article. Very, very excited to debut that again this year. It was, again, one of my favorite pieces of content to write in the offseason, one of my favorite weekly pieces of content to write every single week, looking at matchups and analysis. Excited to debut that hopefully the end of next week. So we'll see how we go next Thursday. We'll see how productive this Saturday is for me. Maybe it'll be ready for Thursday. Maybe it'll be ready for Monday. But yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's been a blast. You got it. He's Tyler Beaker. You can find all his information over at FG. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get signed up so you can get Tyler's work all season long. Not just the stuff he does, the great work in the preseason, but his coverage all year long. Tyler will be back once again next Thursday. We had a programming note. We had a change this week. So tomorrow, Armando Marsal joins us because on Tuesday he was unable to join. We had Russell Clay jump in Tuesday. So look for Armando to be on the show tomorrow at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. We'll obviously start at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, as always, here on the show. For Tyler, I'm Ray. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com. We'll see you tomorrow night on Friday, 12 o'clock Eastern Time. Have a great one.